Last time I spoke about this relationship. I spoke about this most important of relationships. The trouble when speaking about this kind of thing is you might agree with what I said, you might be quite inspired by it. But then you think, well, what do I do now? How do I get in touch with this relationship? How do I work on this relationship? This relationship with the universe, this relationship with being. How do I work in it? All relationships take work, don't they? Well, I don't know about you, but I find that whole attitude rather tedious. The idea of working on a relationship. It seems that's the sort of thing we're expected to do these days. The idea that a relationship can just happen and can be a joy from moment to moment isn't something which people seem to talk about much. No, we're not going to work on this relationship. On the other hand, we don't want to be left hanging. I spoke about this relationship. Maybe you've got no sense of it. It's a bit strange really, given that here we are, in this body apparently, in this world apparently, or at least in this room. There's some relationship going on all the time, isn't there? Between yourself and out there. If there isn't, then you might as well be dead. Well, you probably are dead. Because you've got one. You've got a relationship, whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not. Well, you've got one to the extent that you experience yourself as an individual walking around on this stage set that we call the world. But anyway, we feel that it's something that we've got to do. We've got to get in touch with this relationship. Actually, that's probably a good way of looking at it. We've got to get in touch with it. If you've ever thought about this relationship with the world, well, that's the first thing you can start doing. You don't have to work in it. Just acknowledge it for a start. What's the emotional flavouring of it? I think a lot of people have quite a negative flavouring to it. The world is quite a terrifying place after all. You can get ill, you can be subjected to violence, all sorts of hideous things can happen. It can be extremely hard just to get by. Those atheists that aren't really atheists, but who are people who are angry with God for all the injustices in the world and choose not to believe in God just out of anger towards God. Well, I suppose that's their response, isn't it? A sense of injustice. That's what colours their relationship. A sense of unfairness. A sense of hurt. It might be a terrible sense of depression, of blackness, of the coldness of the world, the coldness of nature, the coldness of the inhumanity of humanity. Well, it depends on your disposition, doesn't it? seems to be a certain class of people who, by virtue of their miserableness, their misery, claim a more real insight into things than people who are intrinsically happy. There are people who are intrinsically happy in their relationship with the world. Perhaps they experience the preciousness of being alive. Here we are, in this universe, which is apparently about 15 billion years old, on one planet, on the outskirts of a galaxy out of trillions of galaxies, called the Milky Way, which in itself consists of millions of stars with possible planets. And here we are. We get born, we flutter around for a while, and we die. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So why waste time being miserable? I suppose we all like a bit of drama. Anyway, that's a beginning. We can start thinking about the emotional colouring, the emotional tone of this relationship. It's something we've got all the time. It's something we can be constantly aware of. Are we throwing little tantrums in the direction of this God that we don't believe in? Or are we living each day eager to face whatever challenge it presents, eager to live our life to the full? Whatever, you know. Personally, I've got a distinct depressive streak. I tend to be in the category I first mentioned, although it varies. And to some extent, you know, you're dealt your cards, and you've just got to play them the best you can. You can't change the cards you've been dealt with. You've just got to go with it. Do the best you can. In other words, you've got to accept yourself. And this is the key. Accepting yourself is not resigning yourself. Accepting yourself is making the most of what you've got. In the same way, you accept the world. This isn't to say that you resign yourself to everything which you perceive as wrong with the world. You act in accordance with it in the way that suits the cards that you've been dealt. So the key here is acceptance, not resignation. That acceptance requires openness, not rejection. It means not shutting out. It means not shutting out the way I mentioned last time, by fixing and fixating upon beliefs and ideas. If we really want to deepen this relationship, find out more about it, we've got to try to stop fitting it in to our notions and beliefs.